won't tell you that he loves me. I won't tell you that he saved my life, but I can say as loud and clear as I can sing from my lips to yours, is that there's one of our God in every one of our lives, and that's why we sing Shema Israel Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Oh, and that's why we sing Shema Israel Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Oh, and that's why we sing.
All right, how's everyone doing? Doing all right? You're not doing too good? You guys a little tired? Well, if you're doing all right, why don't you say, hey, yeah, why don't we give ourselves a hand over here? We're here in the Shabbat. Today is a wonderful Shabbat, right? So Shabbat Shalom. I had a wonderful greeting from my little brother this morning. He sent me a picture of himself, and I asked, it was more of a drawing, and I asked my children, hey, who is this? And they're like, oh, that's Uncle Polito. They knew who he was right away. So he's probably watching on this Sabbath day. So, title of the message, I know maybe you guys, maybe, I don't even know if I should tell you. I think you guys already kind of know it. It kind of says what the song was saying, Shema, you know. And it's not really, this is more of a second witness to what Brother Ben gave to us a couple weeks ago about listening to his voice, listening to Yahweh. So it's really more of a second witness as to him, to what the message that he gave in just a few weeks ago. The word Shema is a word that actually has a couple of different terms, a couple of different ideas that comes with it. One is to hear, one is to listen, attention, and to focus. And so what I want to do is I want to pick a little bit on all four of them today. And the reason why I feel that Yahweh gave me this message when we were visiting down in Houston a couple weeks ago. As some of you guys know, we went down to Houston. I wasn't there for the Houston Relief. This is not a Houston Relief thing. We were there to visit family, okay? I have brothers and sisters. I have cousins that all live in the Houston area, and we were there to visit them. We decided 3 years ago that we would make a family tradition of visiting with each other in November, which is something that has been I haven't been able to do for many years because of my work. Usually I had to work either on the secular holidays, and because of my current position, I'm able to have those holidays off. So it was a great opportunity to make this family tradition into effect about 3 years ago. And the wonderful thing about Yahweh is that, as I was explaining to my family down in Houston, is that Yahweh allows us to have traditions. Did you guys know that? Did you know that He allows you to have traditions? The only thing that He requires is that your tradition don't trump His traditions. That's the only requirement that He has. Otherwise, you know what? You can have as many traditions as you want to have, right? You can tell your family, hey, every Monday from here on out, we're going to get together and we're going to go to some restaurant and have, a wonderful dinner and so forth and so forth. But if that Monday happens to be on the night of Passover, on a high day, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have to tell your family, we can't make it this Monday, but we can certainly make it 2 weeks from today. You know what I'm saying? So He allows us to have traditions that we can come together and basically, He doesn't have a problem with it. As long as, like I said, those traditions don't override His traditions, which is a wonderful thing. That's how wonderful and beautiful His loving kindness is towards us, that He thinks about those things for us, right? Like I was saying, we went down to, you have to excuse me too, because I've been, I always take pride in myself because I don't really get sick a whole lot, I spent about 5 years now. I'm going on my 5th year. Well, I was going on my 5th year without getting sick. And every once in a while I do get sick. So my throat has been kind of dry, and I don't know, maybe I have a sinus infection or something. I don't know. I have something anyway. So excuse me if I drink some water. I didn't know what cottonmouth was. And I feel like I have cotton in my mouth, like all dried up, and I can't speak very well. And then my hearing too is off a little bit because I don't know, I sound like I'm louder than I am. So if I'm yelling, forgive me. Well, maybe that might be the Spirit getting a hold of me or something. I don't know, But anyways, I said, a few weeks ago we went down to Houston. We visited with our family. We took one of our uncles down there, had wonderful conversations with him about the scriptures. We met up with a cousin I haven't seen him. He was about this big. I didn't recognize him. I didn't recognize him at first. Of course, he's a little bit taller than I am now, but when I first met him, he was about this big. The last time I saw him. And so I approached him. I started speaking to him in Spanish, and he spoke to me in English, and I was like, "What? You speak English?" And he's like, "Yeah." Well, mind you, he spent most of his life in Mexico. I didn't realize that he had been spending time in the U.S. studying. And he spent a couple long nights talking with my uncle and Katie, and talking just, hand in hand, what Scripture says. Just hand in hand. Beautiful, beautiful, no malice towards each other. I'm not trumping you with what this is. I'm not, you're not trumping me with what this is. It was just an overall wonderful conversation about the love that our Father has for us, right? And so when we finally got to our big family get-together, I got to see my dad's oldest sister, who was my aunt, and she is the oldest of 12, and I got to see her youngest son, who's married, and unbeknown to Hector and I, his wife, and I told the story to a couple of people the last time I think I shared it with some of you guys, so forgive me if I'm recapping, but I'm just so excited. I'm just excited that how it all turned out and how Yahweh made it all work out. Anyway, unbeknown to Hector and I, his wife is one of the tribes. You know what that means? You guys don't know what that means. You guys are like, yeah, whatever. Are you guys, can you follow me? She is one of the tribes. It's the same look you guys are giving me is the same look I gave her. Like, what? What? When Hector says, "Hey, Robert, she's one of the tribes," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, wait a minute. I was like, "You're one of the tribes?" And she's like, "Yeah." Well, apparently she had been studying the church that she goes to. They started studying, and they started finding the Sabbath, and the Sabbath, and the Sabbath, and then they started searching and looking into it. And what is the Sabbath? What is this, and what is that? And so they started to Shema. They started to listen. And their whole congregation decided that they were going to Shema, that they were going to listen. The beautiful thing is that they made the decision not to Shema to the person that was running the church, but they decided to Shema to the Father, to listen to what He has to say. And guess what? That church, that congregation, out of 400 people, approximately 400, I believe that my number is correct, but out of 400 some people, 200 decided not only to hear, but to listen, to pay attention, and to focus, and to... Here's the thing, too, that I found out is, the word Shema doesn't mean that you obey. It means that you do, right? Like we say, okay, obey me. You need to obey me because I'm... Like I hear my children say, will say, "You need to obey me because I'm older than you," right? They don't say, "Well, you need to listen to me because I'm older than you and I have experience in such things," right? They say, "You need to obey me because I'm older," right? I've experienced that myself out of 14 children, right? I heard my older brothers and sisters tell me, hey, you need to obey me because I'm older. And my dad says so, right? So out of all these people, 200 people decided to focus on what the Word was saying. And they kept it going. And last year they kept this year they kept their first Feast of Tabernacles. Isn't that incredible? I mean, that's the reason to be excited, right? Yes, it is. Now I know my excitement doesn't really protrude out, because I'm the type of person that's excited, and I'm like, yeah. Now there's people that are excited, and they're like, yeah, they put their hands in the air and they do all that. Now for me, man, I'm chill. That's my excitement. Okay, so if my excitement isn't your excitement, and your excitement is this and that, hey, beautiful. Listen. If that's what you want to do, then get excited. Because today is a day to be excited. You guys have something that the rest of the world wishes it had. Right now, they're listening to all these commercials. If you love your loved ones, you can buy this for $19.99, and they will love you. And you can give it to them on the 25th of December. Or you can have this lovely thing for $99, and you can give it to them on the 25th of December. You know what I found out this year? I didn't realize that this was, because I haven't kept Christmas for so long. I found out they're giving gifts with receipts. What? Why am I going to give you a gift with a receipt? So that you can take it back, and then you can get the money back or buy something that you love better. Doesn't that contradict the commercial? Because if you love someone, shouldn't you give them the gift, and shouldn't they accept it because you love, or they love you? Not say, here's a gift plus also. Now I can understand, okay, like one year when I was keeping Christmas, somebody, I'm not going to mention, but I got a sweater, and this was kind of an ugly looking sweater. Katie says it wasn't her. So, anyway, I get this sweater, and it's kind of, sometimes facial expressions really don't hide what you're feeling inside. You know what I'm saying? And so my facial my face, my impressions, my face, I don't know what, my whole body was telling, this is not me, okay? This is not my love language, okay? And I'm looking for the receipt. Now, but I'm thinking, wow, this is kind of an ugly sweater. I don't know but I wore it. I wore it. Back then, yeah, Carla, you're right, the stores wouldn't take the stuff back, But anyway, so as I was saying, my cousin's wife asked us about, what we've been doing, how long have we been doing it, and my cousin, her husband, this is why I'm so excited. I'm telling you, I'm excited, but I know you guys, it's hard for you guys to believe that I am. But I really am. So I'm sitting down, I'm talking to them, and she's like, hey, so how did this movement come about? And I explained to them that when the movement first came in our families, that's Hector's family and my family, I really wasn't into it. I really was like, yeah, whatever, do your thing, I'll do my thing, right? That made her feel so comfortable because that's where my cousin is. My cousin is in the same spot that I was 20-some years ago, right? So what she sees is the fact that she sees hope, right? She's encouraged by she's kind of torn, really, okay? Because on the one hand, she wants him to believe, she wants him to understand what she's feeling, what she's knowing, what she's hearing. That she is Shema, she's listening, she's focused on, and so she wants that for him. But he is at a point where he says, the world hears what they want to hear, And so when I was explaining to her our walk, that gave her encouragement to understand, okay, all right. And so she asked him straight out, we're sitting there, and she goes, so are you going to take me to Sterling? And he said, yeah. And so she's like, as a wife does, no, for real. Are you taking me to Sterling? You ever had a wife do that to you? So she's like, no, for real. And he's like, as a husband does, yo, lady, I said I was. You know? That's what husbands do, right? Like, hey, if I said I was going to do something, I'm going to do it, right? I might take a couple of months, a couple of years, but you're going to do it. You'll eventually get to it, You know what I'm saying? Come on. I mean, you guys, those of you that are married, you know what I'm talking about, So that gave her encouragement. And I could see that gave her encouragement. And it also encouraged me, because that is what we want to do. We want to encourage people, not discourage people. We want to show them that we have the love of Messiah, first and foremost. We want to show them that we have hope. But we want to show them that we're paying attention to what the Father is saying, right? We want to show them that we are in a position to be able to focus, regardless of what the world might be going through, regardless of what your outside world, your whatever the case may be, is that we are focused on what He is telling us to do and the direction that He wants us to go. You know what I'm saying? And so hopefully, sometime in the future, you guys get to meet them. Hopefully they can come up. I don't know if it's going to be in the winter because they kept telling me how that evening was like. I think that evening was around 50 degrees. It was about 50 degrees or so, and they were so cold. They were there just shivering. Now, come on. When we left, it was 14 degrees. You think 51 degrees is going to make us shiver? Absolutely not, right? So hopefully, like I said, they will come up, and I don't think they're going to come up for the winter. But Yahweh willing, we'll see what happens, right? As the evening went on, as I said, my aunt, my dad's oldest sister, my dad is the third one in line, I believe, in the family structure. Unfortunately, I'm like number 14 minus 2. I'm like number 12 in line, right? I'm like number 12 in the lineage. So, you know how the blessing always goes from one to the other? Well, it's going to take a long time for the blessing to get to me. You know what I'm saying? It's going to take a long time. So, anyway, as the evening progressed, we all took a family picture, and we counted somewhere. Last year there was more. This year, one of my sisters wasn't able to make it. She had which please pray for my sister. She had half of her liver taken out. I think there was something going on with her liver. So, but we stopped to visit her during that weekend. But anyway, as the evening went on, as a custom, our aunt gave us a blessing. Beautiful blessing that she started out with. I mean, it was a wonderful blessing that she gave us. And then she, of course, because she's the older one, she told our dad, "You have to do it because I'm older than you. Get up and give them a blessing." So our dad got up and he gave us a blessing as well. And our uncle, who was younger than our dad, so our dad told my uncle, "You need to get up because I'm older than you. Get up and give them a blessing," right? So, but my uncle decided that he would yield his position, and that he gave an opportunity. Somehow it worked out, I'm not really sure. Aiden was sitting in his lap, and because my aunt was speaking Spanish, Aiden couldn't really understand, and I know I heard it all weekend, okay? So I'm going to start Spanish classes in January, I think. All right, so my children will be bilingual by November of next year, so I don't have to hear the whole, "Papis, they don't speak no English. You don't speak no English either." Anyway, so I got reprimanded for it, which I was a little bit ashamed. Not really, but anyway. So she tells me, "Hey, they want to converse with me." My aunt's telling me, "Your children want to talk to me, but we can't talk to each other because we don't understand each other." And I was like, "Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, yeah." So anyway, our uncle somehow yields the floor, and hands that over to Katie, right? And so Katie's like all nervous, and she comes over, and she's like, what do I do? What do I do? I'm like, well, just do something. She's like, what do I do? I'm like, I don't speak Spanish either. I'm like, well, I don't either. I'm like, yeah, I do. Wait a minute. I'm all confused. So I said, just say a prayer, I guess, a blessing or a prayer, and just say a prayer. So she did. She went ahead and she said something. The Spirit of Yahweh, as you know, says hovered throughout, right? You could feel that. If you have never been into a place where the Spirit of Yahweh is hovering, you're missing something. Because when you're in a place and you know that the love of Messiah is there, and you know that the love of our Heavenly Father is there, there is such a wonderful feeling that you just can't describe, but we all know it. We all know it. I got a question for you guys. Just like we all know that. I got a question. Can any one of you tell me what Yahweh's voice sounds like? Can anybody tell me what his voice sounds like? Surely there has to be someone in here that can tell me what his voice sounds like. Mike, have you heard his voice? Like rushing waters? Some thunder? Okay. The reason why I ask that is because when we Shema, when we are listening for something, correct? I'm like, you can hear my voice. And you probably right now realize that I don't sound like myself, right? Because of my whatever I have, right? But you know that someone sounds like, for instance, I know what Hector sounds like when I pick up the phone. When he picks up the phone, we know what each other sounds like. You guys have siblings that you can do that to? Right? What about children that pick up the phone and you think it's your spouse? Has that happened to anybody? Yeah? Sometimes I have to ask. Sometimes when I call Katie's phone and someone answers, I have to ask, I got to talk to your mom. This is your mom. I mean, what? Because sometimes if I'm listening, if somebody picks up the phone and say like Chloe, I can't tell, my ear cannot tell the difference between Chloe's voice and Katie's voice. Sometimes that happens. And I'll tell you a funny story, what happened back when I was a teen, and I was still in my parents' house. One of my aunts calls my parents' house asking for her husband, Jesse, my uncle. And so I answered the phone, and she kind of had an inclination that it was me, but I tricked her into thinking that it was him. And so I used to do it a lot better. I can't do it anymore. But I used to be able to what do they call that? Like when you talk, like impersonate. I used to be pretty good at it. But I haven't done it in so long that my skill kind of went away. But anyway, that particular day she calls, and I impersonated my uncle. And so I said, "Hey, how you doing, baby?" And she's like, "Hello?" And she's like, and I was, and then, because I heard my uncle talk to her, in a loving way, in a cutie way. You know how you guys do it. I don't have to tell you guys. But and so she's like, I could hear her brain thinking, is this really him, or is this someone else? And so I could hear, so I just, kept a little bit going, the analog kept going a little bit. And then finally she's just like, oh, it's me, But she couldn't tell the difference between my voice and my uncle's voice, and she literally thought that she was speaking to him, right? And so that's why I ask you this question, is that, do we really know what Yahweh sounds like? Have we ever heard his voice? And it's a hard thing for me to answer. I know that I have heard something, I just don't know exactly what it is. Years ago, when I was remodeling the kitchen, I had a three-phase wire, the electric stove, and it's a three-phase, which means that you have a black, a white, and a red wire. And so you plug in your stove to that. And I unplugged it because we were remodeling. I removed the old plug, the old outlet, and I finally was moving it to where we wanted it. I was putting a new one in, and I had been walking around. The wire was in the basement. The wire was kind of brushing my hair, and I just really wasn't paying attention to it because I was more concentrated in making the hole so that I could run the wire to the kitchen. And so finally get all that done. As like I said, the wire had been brushing my hair like this the whole time. And so I went ahead and took it, I unwound it, I took the wire knots out, and I was going to put them all together so that you could run them through the hole. As I'm doing that, I take the nuts out, and here's the 3 wires like this. As I'm doing that, of course, you have to get them all together, And so I heard something tell me, as I'm right here, I heard something tell me stop. And I'm like, I was like, I don't know. That sounded weird, but okay, I don't know what that is. So I'm like, okay, I need to do this. So I do it a second time. I go like this, and I hear again, stop. And I was just like, what is that noise? I was like, I know that I'm by myself. There's nobody here. I'm all by myself. So I thought, well, maybe there's something to this thing, So I decided, why not touch the wires? Maybe there's something with the wires. Maybe Yahweh is trying to tell me something here. So I went ahead and touched the wires, and all of a sudden, the house goes blank, and it's dark. And I'm like, whoa. I had to go and pick up my heart, and put it back in, And I was like, I could still feel it down my boot, boom, boom, You ever had that feeling when you're like that close, and all of a sudden His love just picks you up, and you're just like, but it takes you a minute for your body to get back to where it was, right? And so, but when I touched those wires, the spark went out, and immediately my heart just went, and I was like, wow. I cannot tell you, or I can describe to you what that voice was. All I know is that I heard something tell me to stop, right? And so, as I was saying, the family reunion was a beautiful, wonderful experience. My children had a wonderful time. I had a wonderful time. Hector and I both got sick. He got sick earlier in our days there, but I ended up getting sick on the way back. But it was good. So we decided to come back after the Shabbat. We drove past. We got out of Texas, and we decided to stop at a hotel. And we get to the hotel, and the lady tells us, "Sorry, they overbooked you. We don't have room for both of you." And so she's like, "Well, but we do have these rooms that were renovated. We have to go and check it out, make sure that everything's good." So she comes back and she says, "Nope, sorry." She says, all I can do is give you one room." She says, "But fortunately, you guys are just in time because we just opened up a place just down the street. It is completely," I heard her say that it was a completely brand new building, right? That's what I heard. That was what I heard. And so Hector and I decided, okay, let's touch it. All right, you win, you stay, I go, right? So Hector stayed there. And then we went to the other hotel. We get there. These hotels, you see it in my movies, right? And you hear this music playing, dun, 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 dun. You hear this music like out of nowhere, right? You hear this like, whoa, this is not something that the lady described, okay? And I'm like, that's the address she gave me. I'm looking at the GPS, and she's like, and Katie's like, are you sure? And I'm like, that's what she gave me. And so right away, Katie's Shema, her radar is going off. Of course, my Shema is asleep. Mine's cool. And so I'm like, just go in there. Get the room, and let's get some rest and head on out. So it so happens that reluctantly she goes in there, gets the keys. We get our stuff. We go into the room. She tries the key. Key doesn't work, and she's like, okay, tries it again. Key doesn't work. And we're looking around and we're like, okay. This is not the best place, that this, wherever we are, can offer. But hey, it's a place to sleep, right? So I'm like, well, maybe there's something wrong with your key. Let me try my key. So I try my key. It doesn't. Try it a couple times, and like, she goes, what do we do? That is when my Shema woke up and said, we've always been talking about how we want to listen to Yahweh's voice and how we need to Shema when he tells us something. And then we both looked at each other and we're like, this would be a good time to Shema, don't you think? And so we're like, yeah, this would be a good time. So we got everything, and then we went back to the desk and we told the lady, we're walking back, as we're walking back to the desk, my phone rings, it's Hector. Hey, were you settled down and everything? I said, nah. I said, Hector, this place is not what they told us. I said, so we're going to just go ahead and keep driving. And Hector's like, no, just give me a second and go ahead and check out, but just give me a few minutes and try to work something out. So I was like, okay, no problem. So we go in and we're trying to check out. It takes a few minutes. There were some issues going on with some other lady and some other stuff. And so as we're finishing up, the phone rings again. Hector says, hey, I got you guys a room. It's just right across from where we are. Everything's set up, ready to go. You guys come over, go to the Best Western. And we ended up going there, right? And so, because we thought we were going to hit the road. But what's interesting is this, okay? In Isaiah 65, share a few scriptures with you. I know I was just so excited to tell you this, what we have been experiencing in the last month or so, and it just has been so exciting. In Isaiah 65, verse 24, it says, in Isaiah 65, verse 24, it says, and it will come to pass that before they call, I will answer, and while they are still speaking, I will hear. So as Katie and I are we're looking at each other, realizing that her key didn't work, my key didn't work, that we need to Shema as we are speaking to each other, and we're beginning to say, you know what, Yahweh heard us before we even started rolling. So he hears you while you are speaking. The beautiful thing about Shema is that it also means that Yahweh hears. Yahweh pays attention to your prayer. Yahweh listens to your prayer. It's not just for you to Shema, it's for him to Shema in your behalf. In the book of 1 John, in chapter 5, 1 John chapter 5, verse 14 says, This is the confidence which we have before him, that if we ask anything according to his will, he hears us. He Shema for us. He is paying attention to us. He is focused on us. He is listening to us. That is the wonderful thing about the Hebrew word Shema. It's not only for us to hear what he has to say, but it is also for him to hear what we have to say and ask for in prayer. But you have to realize there's a disclosure right here. Disclosure is right here. To his will. Okay? Now, don't misunderstand that just because you pray for something, you're going to get it. Trust me, I prayed for a pony and I never got it. You're not going to get something. If it's not in his will, if it's not in his plan, don't be disappointed. Don't be mad, but just realize that it's not his will for you to have such things. Right? That is not in his will. But it doesn't mean that he does not listening to you. It doesn't mean that he's not paying attention to you. It doesn't mean that he's not focused on you. It just means that that is not part of his plan for you at that moment. Maybe later on. Maybe when I'm 90, he'll finally give me the pony. I won't be able to ride it, but, But, okay, verse 15. And if we know that he hears us, and wherever we ask, we know that we have the request in which we have asked from him. Listen, I don't know what you guys are going through, okay? I don't know if you guys are going through some issues. I don't know if you guys have problems, and as a brother in the Messiah, I do want to know those things. When we talk to each other as a body of Messiah, we grow together, we heal each other. Healing comes from us listening to each other, focusing on each other, and paying attention to each other. I don't know if you guys have issues. You probably do, otherwise you wouldn't be here. I mean, come on. Why do you go to church? Why do you go to church? Come on, we don't go to church just because it's a social event, just because it's all fun and games. We go there because we love who our Father is. We love what the Messiah has done for us, and we love to hear the stories of those that have been in it, that are currently in it, and for those that are just beginning to start to know those things. My little brother is just beginning to understand where we are 20 years, what we have been doing for the past 20 years. My family members ousted him. I wasn't feeling bad for him. I know what he goes through. They called us crazy. They said we're in a cult. Oh, these guys are in a cult. Don't listen to what they're saying, right? 20 years later, well, that does make sense what the Bible says. That's what we've been trying to tell you. The Bible says this. It doesn't say that. It says this. It doesn't say that. And so now they're calling him crazy. So I know what he's going through, because we went through it ourselves. The beautiful thing about that is that now Hector and I can share our stories, our experiences with him. We can say, come on, let's face it, okay? In this way of walk, we meet some great people, and then we meet some funny people, all right? We've met some funny people in the 20 years that we've been doing this, okay? Trust me. My first Feast of Tabernacles, this guy decided that he heard that Shema, the father, tell him that he had to go and cleanse the man's bathroom. And so he was told that he was supposed to go there and he was supposed to purify the bathroom. And so he flooded the whole thing so he could purify it. The owners of the camp were so mad, they wanted to kick us out. And I think Hector and a couple other people had to go and explain to them, kind of settle things down, And I still remember that. That was 20-some years ago, and I still remember that, We've had other people come to our assembly that I had a guy tell me, water's a curse. I was like, what? Water's a curse? And he's like, yeah, water is a curse. And I said, okay, well, let me ask you a question. He's like, what? I said, say you're out in the middle of the desert and you come up to a cup of water. Is that a curse or is that a blessing? He's like, oh, well. It's like, well, I'm like, well, what is it? Is it a curse or is it a blessing? And he's like, well, it's a blessing. I said, well, you just said it. Water is a curse. If you're in the middle of the desert and then you find a cup of water, what are you going to do? You're going to drink it. So is it a blessing? Of course it is. It's not a curse. It's not going to hurt you. It's going to help you, right? But if you're in the middle of the ocean, right, and you're like full of water, that's a curse because you can't even drink that water. Because if you drink that water, guess what? You get sick, you end up dying from it because that water has no life. Then it's a curse But to say that water is a curse, it's not. But, like I said, we have had some people that have come, and have strange ideas, They have some strange ideas, but hey, we still Shema, we still listen to Yahweh, and we still keep on going. Okay? In the book of John, chapter 10, verse 27, in the book of John, chapter 10, I should have warned my brother. I'm sorry, brother. I should have warned you that, like York Walker writes songs on people that he loves and knows. I do messages on people that I love and I know. You know what I'm saying? I tell stories on people that I love and know. So I should have warned him beforehand. Not that I don't love him. So, the book of John chapter 10, verse 24 says, My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. So you see, we are the sheep, and we know his voice, and he knows our voice. Out of all of us in this room, and all the people that are watching on the internet, if there is any watching on the internet, but out of all of us, he knows your voice. Isn't that something? That's an incredible thing, that he knows your voice. He understands who you are. And he listens to who you are, and he listens to your concerns. Let's see. In 1 Samuel, we have the story of Samuel and Eli. And the story basically goes as to Eli tells Samuel to go to bed. Samuel goes to bed and he hears a voice. The incredible thing about that story is that Samuel doesn't know the voice. He hears something, but he doesn't know what it is. He thinks that it's Eli. So he gets up and goes to Eli and says, "Yes, I'm here." And Eli says, "No, I didn't call you. Go back to sleep." Second time it happens, "Yo, Eli, I'm here. What's up?" "No, I don't know you. It wasn't me that's calling you. Go ahead and go back to bed." And as the third time came around, Eli recognized that was Yahweh talking to Samuel. Now you might be thinking, what's so good about that story? Well, why would that story be in there? The incredible thing about that story is that in those days, Yahweh had actually stopped talking to the Israelites. Can you imagine if Yahweh would stop talking to you? Imagine when we were at the hotel and Katie tries the key a couple different times, and I tried a couple different times, and we're just like, not hearing anything. But he's telling us, hey, it's time to pack up and go, right? But in those days, the people were not listening to his voice because he wasn't talking to them. And Eli recognized, wow, this is the Father talking to him. Go back and listen to him. Hear what he has to tell you. Now, it wasn't such good news, but still, he wants to know what it is, right? I talk to you from experience. I'm telling you. I'm telling you from experience. When we don't listen to his voice, we end up paying the price. Now, mind you, it's not, sometimes it is life and death. Other times he does it to give you a good lesson, a good whooping, a good pull on the ears, whatever the case may be. It's not like the unknown prophet. In the book of 1 Kings chapter 13, you'll read the story about the unknown prophet, which is a prophet that Yahweh basically told him, go this direction, go to this place, talk to them, don't eat, don't associate with them, just go do what I tell you to do, and then leave in a different direction. And then another prophet gets a hold of him and says, hey, guess what? and he doesn't listen. He didn't pay attention. He wasn't focused. He was misled, and he ended up dying. Right? I think a lion, was it a lion or a bear that killed him? A beast killed him, right? My situation wasn't as harsh as that, but it was a lesson to learn, right? So years ago, in the house that we're currently in, on the day of signing, we were so excited. We got this house. It's a Victorian house. I mean, it's just, we were so excited. On the day of closing, Yahweh was telling us, don't sign. Don't sign. But, like an Israelite, stiff-necked individual, as we are, right? Stubborn, I didn't listen to it. And so I didn't listen to that. And so I was so adamant that we are going to get this house one way or another. This house is going to belong to us. And so what happens is, 3 times within that hour, an obstacle happened where we just, for whatever reason, couldn't sign. And then we jumped over that obstacle, right? And then we jumped over the 3rd obstacle. Finally, we signed, right? And but it was a beautiful lesson that Yahweh has taught me, and that is to Shema. That is to stop and to listen and to focus on what he's telling you. Because if you don't, it's going to be some work for you to catch up on where he wants you to be. And it has taken some work to catch up on where he wanted me to be. But the lesson that was learned was given to me by a loving Father, one that could have very easily taken my life for not listening, right? One that who could very easily just said, I had enough of you, and turned his back on me, which he didn't. But it has been a lesson learned. And so now, that lesson that he taught me, I use to talk to brethren and to tell them, hey, listen, Shema, stand still and listen. If it is Yahweh telling you something, if he is preventing you from something, trust me, if he is blocking you, then don't just say, it is my will and I am going to overcome that. Because I am an overcomer. I am an overachiever. There's nothing wrong with those things. Right? But when you don't listen to his voice, then be prepared to suffer the consequences. And as I said, in some cases, he does take the extremes as to the unknown prophet. But in today's wonderful love that he has for us, he gives us a few thumps on the head, a few taps on the behind to remind us that we have to Shema. We have to listen. Because it could be life or death. That is why we have to listen to his voice. And however you hear his voice. Brother Mike says that he hears it in water, correct? A few occasions. I hear it differently. You may hear it differently. But the wonderful thing is that we have to listen to that. All right? In 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 12, it says, 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 12 says, for the eyes of Yahweh are towards the righteous, and his ears attend to their prayer. But the face of Yahweh is against those who do evil. So we have to realize that his eyes are towards us, and that we have to Shema. We have to pay attention, we have to listen, and we have to focus. on what he is trying to tell us. In Psalms 27, verse 7, Psalm number 27, Psalm 27 says, "Hear, O Yahweh, when I cry with my voice, and be gracious to me and answer me." In Psalm 27, "Shema, O Israel, or Yahweh, when I cry with my voice, and be gracious to me and answer me." Yahweh will answer you. The question is, are you listening? The question is, are you really listening? Are you focused on what he is telling you? So, that is my message on Shema today, brothers and sisters. I wanted to ask you if you would join me in prayer. Also, what I forgot to tell you is that I think I can share this. I don't think my brother would mind. Is that he will be here next week for you guys to meet him. Yes, he will be here. Some of you guys have already met him, but there's a lot of you that haven't met him. So he'll be here next week for you guys to meet him. And don't listen to the stories, okay? They're not true. Okay? If it's me, not true. If it's Hector, yes, it is true. Okay? Now, it's funny. We were sitting with Amanda down in Cisco, and she was asking us stories, about growing up together, and we had a lot of fun, as siblings do, a lot of good times. But we also had some not so good times. But hey, we're here, and Yahweh loves us, and Yeshua gave his life for us so that we could be here today, right? So, anyway, he'll be here next week, and you guys can come over and you guys can meet him. He'll be here. You wanted to come and check out the Winners Fest and see what it's all about, and it's going to be an exciting time for him and for us. And also, if you guys would keep my other brother, Ephraim, who lives here in town, his son, Jurian, went to, he's in the hospital up in Freeport. He has that intestinal thing, diverticulitis or something like that, where you can't eat fruits and nuts and things like that. So if you can keep him in prayer. And my uncle, who went with us to Texas, I think that Yahweh is calling him, and so if you would keep him in prayer. It was a wonderful conversation to have with him. Our cousin Juan, who we spent time with, and he's going to school. This guy is incredible. This guy is an artist. He's a musician. He's a minister. He ministers at his church. He's going to college to become a minister full time, I think. I never really realized how many ministers we have in our family, and we have a lot. So it's incredible to really recognize that we have a lot of ministers that Yahweh has called to minister and to pass out his word. So anyway, if you guys would join me in prayer, and we will Shema. Gracious Father Yahweh, we thank you so much for all that you have done, Father. Father, we want to hear, we want to listen, we want to focus, and we want to make full attention unto your voice, Father, unto your voice of reasoning, unto your voice of healing. Father, there may be some of us that are going through some struggles, and Father, We would just ask that you would open our ears, Father, that you would open our eyes and give us full understanding of what it is that you're trying to do for us. Sometimes it's difficult for us to go through some things and not understand that you are still behind us and that you are still in control. And we just give you praise and thanks, Father. Thank you for allowing us to have an assembly that we can share your wonderful word, that we can share hope with one another, that we can talk freely amongst each other about the hope that we have through your Son, Yeshua, about the wonderful gift that he has given us through his sacrifice of life. For we know, Father, that he went into the tomb and he is no longer there because he has proclaimed victory, Father, for us. And we just give you praise and thanks and all that you do. And again, Father, that you may open our ears. And we give you praise and thanks for allowing us to see and to hear the things. Father, we know that kings and priests desire to hear your voice. They desire to hear your wonderful love. But we have a wonderful opportunity today to hear your voice and to pay attention to your voice. We have a wonderful opportunity that your Son Yeshua has granted us through his sacrifice. And we just thank you in Yeshua's wonderful name. Hallelujah. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Shalom. May you have a blessed, wonderful left of Shabbat. Hallelujah.